Changing minds one thought at a time.
Greetings, everyone, and welcome to the Changing Minds Online Inspirational Call. How are you doing today, Jessica?
I'm doing well, and, I'm excited about tonight. I know, Tina, there's something been on your heart that you want to share with our audience tonight, and I'm really excited to hear about it. So let's jump right into that.
Yes. Today we are talking about the world is waiting on your message. And this topic actually came about because I have recently became a fan of Periscope, and I was doing a Periscope last night on forgiveness. And come to find out that someone who was on the line was going through the exact same thing that I had gone through in my story. And I was able to really help this person and a couple of other people because I shared my story. And I was one of those people who really just sat back and let things happen to me. And I thought of them as, oh, well, this is something that happened to me, push it to the left. And then other stuff would happen to me, okay, it happened to me, push it to the left. But what I didn't realize is that was me going through tests so that I could have a testimony. And a lot of people mention this a lot in their struggles or what have you, and in their speeches. If you're a speaker, you know the term signature speech. And that's usually the speech that people give when they go to different places that lets everybody know their story. That's their signature. And your signature is meant to be heard by people. That is what the world is waiting on. Your signature, the story that you went through, that no one else went through, that is uniquely you, that is going to help so many other people once you let it into the atmosphere. A lot of people say that you're being selfish because if you don't share your story. I don't believe it's quite selfishness. I believe that you may not know or you're not ready to release your story yet, because a lot of times your signature story comes with a lot of pain and a lot of hurt, as does mine, and you're not really ready to release that yet. You're not really ready to let go of all of the things that happened that made your signature story. And I'm going to share a little bit of mine today because, as the title says, the world is waiting on your message, right? So, but first I want to definitely speak to my my co-host today. I want everyone to, keep Jessica lifted up. She had an issue today, and I want y'all to keep her lifted up because she is a good person and she's full of positive energy. And we want to keep that positive energy flowing in her time of sorrow. So we want to definitely lift her up and keep her lifted because we want her to know that we're all behind her and supporting her, for sure.
Well, thank you, Tina. I appreciate it. And, for that, it's comforting that even in time of sorrow, and I had a death in my family today, that I can still be here with everyone, and I'm myself. I'm honored to be partners with you, and I'm excited that I'll draw some comfort also in your message tonight.
Yes. We want to keep the whole family lifted up, during this time, and let them know that they are supported and loved by the Changing Minds Online community, because they definitely are. And that's part of sharing our message because, if you didn't know Jessica and if she didn't share her message, then y'all wouldn't know how loving and kind and caring that she truly is and how she's really meant to be on this earth to share and to impart into other people's lives. And so if we have a chance to impart into hers, we definitely should take that because she's given so much. So I just wanted to put that out in the atmosphere before we get into the story tonight. So the question that we put down for this week is, do you have a message deep down inside dying to get out? Most people do. That's their signature. That's their purpose. That's their purpose of being here. Some people's purpose is to start an organization. Some people are meant to speak. Some people are meant to volunteer. Some people are just meant to be there in times of trouble. But regardless, that's your message. That's what you're supposed to do. And things happen in your life to develop these skills. So when you get to your purpose, you're able to deliver it and deliver it well with conviction and passion. And that is the story that I'm going to tell you today. Like I said before, I love Periscope, and I was on Periscope yesterday, and a lady that is part of my Periscope group was reaching out, and she was getting ready to end her Periscope, and I popped on, and she was like, oh, my goodness, thank you so much for encouraging me to do this, and, you know, and thank you for encouraging others, because I've seen wonderful scopes and stories and been real motivational because you encourage them to tell their story on the scope. And then she asked me when I was going to do my scope. And honestly, I hadn't thought about doing a scope. I had been doing other things, homework. Yes, I'm still in school. This is the last class. Hallelujah. But I hadn't really thought about doing the scope, but something in her voice, I could just feel that I have a need. I need you to do a scope. So I said, I'm getting ready to do one right after yours. And she was like, okay, well, I'll be on. Well, I went on and started doing my scope, and I called it a late-night aha moment, because that's what it was. It was a late aha moment because between her and watching a Medea movie, Medea play, and y'all know y'all can't watch Medea plays and not get affected. I hit the topic of forgiveness. And I was telling my story about forgiveness, and the biggest forgiveness moment in my life was between me and my father. And come to find out that the same lady that was on the last scope that asked me when I was on the scope was going through the exact same issue right then, had just started like a month or so ago. And I was like, oh, my goodness, you know. And then another woman was having issues forgiving her father, and I was like, this must be the right now word. I'm going to tell you my story that I told them. Jessica has not even heard my story, so I know she's been waiting to hear this as well. So, and chime in anytime, Jess.
Before you get into your story, I just want to commend you for listening to your intuition. You know, sometimes we've all had that feeling that there's something that we should do, and you know, I call it the voice of God. You can really call it whatever you want. I call it the kind of God. Sometimes that feeling and we get that feeling in less whenever it is in the and get that way. You know, I want to thank you and I want to commend you and acknowledge you for listening to that, because, you know, people are blessed with that to share. And for anyone tonight, you know, who is on the call, you know, my advice is to listen to that little bit. If you do, someone can be blessed by whatever it is that you're asked to do with share.
Yes. Yes, I believe that too. Your story can touch so many people, and I think that was the real aha moment, that me telling my story last night touched so many people that I was completely shocked. I did not know that people would be touched so much by my story and was going through the same thing. And, you know, and I was still telling them, I was like, you know, it's something, releasing that is good for you and it's good for the other person, because you never know what was going on in their head. But then when you shared your story and y'all realized y'all had a connection, then, you know, everything came back to life. And that is so important. So we started talking about forgiveness, like I stated before. And basically, I didn't find out about my father until I was 8 years old. And the reason why I found out about my father is because my stepfather, who I thought was my father, my grandmother was mad at him. And people who know my grandmother know that she is very blunt and to the point. And so I went up, like little 8-year-olds do, and try to protect my father, right? Why can't you give him back his clothes? My grandmother was keeping his clothes for hostage. And that's a side note. and so I said, why don't you just give my daddy back his clothes? And she said to me, that's not your daddy. Your daddy's name is Robert Stevens. I'm like, I'm 8, and you just told me this. I had to process this. This is, what? So, of course, I lived a block away from my grandmother, so I walked up the street into my house and knocked on my door, so my mom would let me in. And she comes to the door, and she's all smiling at me, and I said, who's Robert Stevens? And you would have thought every ounce of blood drove out of her face, right? She lets me in the house, and, of course, we have to have that conversation. And that was very interesting. I did not meet Mr. Stevens until I was about 12, when, once again, my grandmother decided that it was time for me to meet him. So she took me down there and let me meet him and whatnot. And then when I was 13, I spent a week down there with him. And then when I was 14, he came and spent, we went to Gatlinburg, so he came to Tennessee and visited us. Well, after 12 years, 14 years, really being kind of without a father, his wife at the time didn't like the fact that he was talking to my mother, and so he was no longer allowed to talk to me anymore. So from the age of 14 to 25, I did not speak to my father. During that time, he had gotten a divorce and moved to Colorado, and I didn't know about it. Well, when I was 25, I was graduating from college, and I said it's time for me to go ahead and meet him. So I sent him a letter to his house that I knew about. Come to find out, he was no longer there, and I connected with my sister. That's another forgiveness moment that we're not going to go into today. So, met my father. Finally talked to my father after I talked to my sister, and because my sister had to screen me first before she let me have my father's number. Another forgiveness moment that we want to speak on this tonight. So I talked to my father. He can't come to the graduation, but he did send me some lovely roses and help with the graduation party and whatnot. And then he did invite me to come stay with him for a year while I got my master's degree in Colorado, because it was easier to get in school there than in Tennessee. So I moved up there in October of 2003. Well, 7 years later and 3 degrees later, I leave Colorado Springs and I get a job at the university that I am now, and I moved to California. During that 7 years, I had to get to know this person that had my same bloodline and genealogy, and yet I knew nothing about him, and here I am sitting, and, he was expecting me to jump in open arms, but I couldn't do that at first. I could not get over the fact that I had been abandoned not once but twice by this individual. And I just didn't get why that was. And so we had to go through our process. And in the process of forgiveness, because by year 7, of course, I had forgiven him at that point, I had to realize that, it wasn't for him. The forgiveness was for me, because I was watching him, and he was just going ahead on living his life. I was mad and bitter and upset and having trust issues and all this stuff, and he was la, 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 like the Smurf song, He was just tra-la-la-ing along. And I'm watching this, like, you don't care about my feelings? You don't care that you hurt me? But the thing was, that was my hurt that I had to deal with and process. It wasn't his hurt. He could have cared less. And he was like, I'm sorry you hurt, but I'm going to keep living. And he told me that point blank. And that's when I had to realize, woo, I have to take responsibility for my personal feelings, because my personal feelings does not affect the other person. They're going to keep on going, whether I feel this way or not, whether I forgive or not. So why not forgive and get rid of that negative energy and put positive energy in its place? That's a good question. Why people hang on to stuff and keep bringing it up and up when the other person doesn't care? If anything, it gets on their nerves because you keep bringing it up. Negativity and positivity can't live in the same space. And that's one thing I had to learn about forgiveness. If I wanted to have a positive life, if I wanted to have a fulfilled life, if I wanted to have a productive life, I had to get rid of the negativity, the bitterness, the hatred, and move forward in my life, because I was going to keep going on that same loop until I dealt with it. It's kind of like when you're on a weight loss journey. I am an emotional eater, so when I was on my weight loss journey, as the pounds came off, the things that I had ate away my problems, they kept coming back. And I would plateau at that weight until I dealt with that issue. And it's the same thing with your emotions and forgiveness. You will keep spinning that wheel. That same person will keep coming up. That same situation will keep coming up. It'll just have a different face and a different name. And until you resolve that issue, let's say pluck that nerve, get rid of that nerve, pluck it from the nerve, then you will keep going on that same loop over and over again. And I want to go ahead and put that into the atmosphere for everyone that's listening to this podcast today, in podcast time or in live time, because guess what? You don't deserve that. You don't deserve to go over the same stuff over and over and expecting a different result. You don't deserve that. What you deserve is happiness. You deserve peace. You deserve harmony. And once you decide you deserve that and go get that and release all that negativity, that's when you will have that. And then your mindset will change, and you will just keep trotting along like them other people are. They're sitting up there, and it's not fazing them at all. Once you deserve you are worth that, then you're just going to go in all hands on. So, back to the story. So, as I'm telling my story on the scope, the people are starting to respond to me. And, because on Periscope you could type in, comments to the live speaker. And, they're telling me, wow, I never thought about it that way. Or, wow, that really touched me. Thank you for spreading your story. Thank you for making that change. And I don't know why. And I kept telling them, I have no idea why I was compelled to tell this story today, but it was a necessity. Just like forgiveness is a necessity, it is hard. It is uncomfortable, but it is a necessity. Those are the three things I want y'all to take away about forgiveness today. Forgiveness may be hard and it may be uncomfortable, but it is a necessity. You need to forgive, not for the other person, but for yourself, so that you can move on to your greater. Your greater is more important than having negative feelings about somebody that does not care. Done. As we say on scope, boom. That's a boom moment. That's a tweetable. You got to go out there and release all of that. Yes, it's going to be hard because your feelings were hurt. Acknowledge the pain. Then acknowledge the fact that it wasn't your fault. And then you release it. Because guess what? It's not doing you any good. The positivity that's going to come behind it, the peace that's going to come behind it, the joy that's going to come behind it, that is the stuff that's your fault. That's the stuff that you made happen. Not that negativity that somebody else did to hurt your feelings. That's what they did. You don't want to give them any glory. You don't want to give them any acknowledgement. No. You want to put them on the shelf where they belong. On the shelf. On the shelf. So, back to the story again. So, and someone was going through the exact same thing that I had gone through. And they were like, they know that they need to take care of it. But they found it was so hard. Well, I told them, like G.I. Joe says, knowing is half the battle. But the second part of the battle is the action. Okay, so you got the knowing part down. Now you got to take some action to get to where you want to get. Because you could sit there and know all day long and you're still hurting. But until you take the action to do what you need to do to release the pain and the stress and the anguish, i.e. having the conversations, talking to the person, expressing your feelings. If you express your feelings and then they poo-poo you away, you're done with it. You said what you had to say. It's out in the atmosphere, and you're done with it. If you express your feelings and they receive it, and then y'all come together, once again, you have released it. You're done with that piece, and you have moved on into the harmony and peace part. But regardless of what it is, you took action either way. You didn't just sit there and think, I woulda, coulda, shoulda. You took action to get where you wanted to go. Are you on, Jess?
Akina, on that note, I just want to share, and I love what you're talking about, and I actually call those clearing conversations. And it's interesting because, I love how you talked about it. It's really not for the other person, it's for you. And for me, when I have a clearing conversation, it's about wanting to and going to someone and saying, this is my experience, how I felt about what happened, and doing it and this may be hard, especially if it's something you really have to forgive someone for, what your father used to do. It might be harder than someone just saying offhand comment that offended you. But, go to that person and clear with them, let them know what your experience was, and try not to be judgmental. Try not to have it upbeat wrong. They're not necessarily going to listen if you were making them wrong about something, but let them know how you felt and what the experience was created for you. And, I love how you talked about it doesn't have to be for that person. And the reason why I want to bring that up is that I know there's someone listening on the call tonight who may need to have a clearing conversation, but maybe with someone who's passed away already. Maybe there's something that you need to forgive someone for. Maybe it is a parent, and maybe that parent's no longer here. And the good news is, because it's not about the other person, you're not required to actually clear with them. I have I have guinea pigs. I love animals, so anyone who knows me knows I have a rabbit. I have 3 guinea pigs. In my parents' house, there's 4 chickens and a dog. And, I have this one guinea pig, Jack, and he's 6 years old, and he's black and gray, and he used to be all black, but now he's black and gray and fuzzy and has a ton of hair. And I actually have all my clearing conversations with Jack's guinea pigs. Since it's not about the other person, they don't need to be present. So, I'll just sit and look at Jack and say, hey, you know what, the experience around this that created for me was this. This is how it made me feel. And then I let it go. You acknowledge your feelings and then let it go. That's not necessarily easy, but knowing that you have 100% of the responsibility, 100% of the power, it's amazing. It really does. It gives you the power. And, you don't need to depend on the other person. It doesn't matter whether the person receives you or doesn't receive you. Now, you may be someone who has the opportunity and who may want to clear with that individual, and that's your choice. But know that it's not a requirement.
Wow, that's a good point, Jess. I love that about the clearing conversation. If you're not ready to have that conversation with the person, have it in front of the mirror. Write it out in your journal, but have it, and start clearing out the clutter in your spirit. Start clearing it out. Start organizing it. If you don't think you could just have that conversation, write it out. Write it out the way you think it's going to be in your mind. Play it out, in the mirror. the way you think it should go. You know, be prepared if that's where you need to go. Some people just go out and blurt it out. Some people need to be prepared. But the point is to get it out because it's taking up space that positivity could be. And you deserve abundance and you deserve positivity and peace. And until you get all of that out of the cash, you can't let any of that in, right? You know, cash computer term, right? So, you know, you got to let that all out of there so that good stuff can get in. You know, that's definitely the point. So, you know, as it's time for us to start closing down tonight, I want to leave y'all with 3 important steps, like I said before, when we come to forgiveness and your message. First off, people are waiting on you. You were here, placed on this earth for a purpose, and you have to let it out. Everything that you've experienced is building you up to be that stronger person so that you could come in like fire when it's time for you to give your message. You know, you never know who you're going to touch. You never know who you're going to meet. So always be in prepared mode. You know, you never know just because you say one thing, you never, or acknowledge a person. Just acknowledging them, just smiling at them sometimes is enough to brighten up somebody's day. You know, come in that headspace. Come in with that positivity. Come in with that motivation. And that's where the positivity will start and the story will start, and then you'll receive more people and more people will receive your story. They are waiting on you. As far as forgiveness, the 3 steps, yes, it may be hard, yes, it may be uncomfortable, but it is and always will be necessary. Those are the things I wanted to share tonight. Jess, do you have anything you want to share before we leave?
You know, Akina, before we close, you know, I never knew the story about your father. As a matter of fact, if you would have asked me, you know, if someone would have asked me, you know, what's the Akina's mission for their father, I would have just said that you have a very loving relationship with your father. In fact, most of the times you speak with him, with me, it's always positive, and you have a very high, you love him. And I've heard you say recently that you really love him, that, in fact, I know he just spent a few months at your house. You know, and I'm bringing that up because I want to make sure that when you're talking about forgiveness, that the audience doesn't walk away from this thinking that, you know, you just said, okay, I forgave him and we've done. Like, you truly forgave him. And I want to really acknowledge you for that. That is really not easy. Like, you really love this man. And I want you to share that and share how you feel about him today and what your relationship is like today, even if we go over for a few minutes. And I just hope everyone's bear with us because it's really amazing to hear this story when I know how much you love him and what an important part he plays in your life, what an important role he plays in your life.
Oh, of course. Well, my father is now 79 years old, and when he was 77, we found out he had stage 4 prostate cancer. He was 124 pounds. As of June 4th, we found out that he is like 200 pounds, something in that area, and he is in complete remission. So, you know, I love my father. You know, he is a unique little soul, and and so I've been told I'm the most like him out of the 5 children. And I can probably believe so. And all in all, you know, they haven't really let go of all their stuff yet. But I've let it go. I get it. And, you know, I realize that I need to love him where he's at, the person that he is, no matter what it is. And now I have complete harmony when it comes to my father. So thank you so much for letting me share that, Jess.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, thank you for sharing that.
Most definitely. Well, anything resonated with you tonight from this podcast, please find us at changingmindsonline.com. You can also find us on YouTube. You can find us on iTunes and, of course, Stitcher and Tuned In. So, Jessica, would you like to close us out the way we usually do?
That's right. We're listening. You know, I just want to thank everyone in advance for your prayers. Really appreciate it. We really just love you guys. Feel so close to our community. You guys interact with you on Facebook, moving messages privately, and just let us know that things touched you. And I just pray that this really does benefit you in some way. And thank you for doing that for us. You know, we really love you. We do this podcast for you. We're so excited when you share our victories with us. We're so proud of you. So, you know, we'll be with you on Thursday for our Empowered Women series at 9 to 9:30 p.m. Daylight time. So God bless. We love you, and make it a really powerful day.
Okay, everyone. Well, thank you so much for listening, and we appreciate you all. Good night, everyone, and we'll see you next Thursday.